All right, people, welcome. We are here. Welcome to the Vision2Mission podcast. Today, we're talking about male leadership, but really on top of that and below that, inside of that, we're talking about Christian male leadership. There's not a lot of podcasts that I hear today, and maybe they're out there, maybe they're not. Not a lot of articles that I read, maybe they're out there, maybe they're not, that specifically talk about this issue and how male leadership is so important in this country. So our guests today are our podcast engineer, Mr. Anton Keith, or should I say Anton K? I don't know if I want to put his last name out there, so you can just cut that. Right. And I got my main man, TJ, here, who's a veteran and also a business owner here in the community in the Northern Virginia area. How you guys doing?
Doing pretty good, man.
We're here,
pretty
bro.
good.
We're here. We just recording a conversation that we normally have just, eat over breakfast.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? It's just, this is like nothing for us.
Right.
Let's chop it up like we always do.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right. And so we're just going to keep this as what's called organic as possible, like all the food in my house. So
It is organic as possible, though. Low key, though.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, we're gonna first start outside the church. Okay, then we're gonna walk. Then we're gonna walk in the sanctuary.
Good.
Okay.
Good. Because I'm like, I'm the minor in that field. I'd have been like, okay, can we talk about the streets? Because I'm versed in the streets. I just started liking Christian music, so
There you go. Well, you know what? So let's talk about that. So you're from Detroit,
Yep.
right? And so growing up, really, what were the symbols of male leadership, or what were the symbols of just men specifically for you in your life when you were growing up in Detroit?
So I had a couple. I had my grandfather, so I get a big shout to James. Hard working guy, came home, working hard, military man, lots of kids, typical from New York, went in the military, met my grandmother early. Went to the war like everybody else did it at those times, came back, got a job in the North, met him a nice West Virginian girl while he was, going from station to station, got married, went back to New York for a little bit. And then my great-grandparents moved from West Virginia up there and bought a house and then bought them a house right next door.
Nice.
So, so my grandfather was one, worked his butt off for 35, 40 years, came home, turned his check over to my grandmother, and she made things happen. And then after that, it takes a tremendous downturn because after that, it's the dope boys. I had my grandfather, but when I stepped out of the house, it was the dope boys. Because my grandfather was like, yeah, you work, you come home, you take care of business, you take care of your family. But then once you step out, you see the real nice cars and the major damage and the Guests and the hammer pants and tailored suits. I'm from Detroit, so we did it flashy.
Yeah.
And like the cars with the bass knocking and stuff like that and fat knots and it was just like the dichotomy started immediately. Which one do I do?
Right.
Am I like my grandfather, or am I like these dope boys who are here and they never get in trouble? They always hanging out. They not hiding from the cops. I never even seen cops. Like we saw like the, how you see like that van that's just on your block.
Yeah.
And you like kind of go in the house.
Yeah.
That wasn't like you didn't see like patrol guys walking the beat, community policing.
Yeah.
Ain't no community policing in my hood. It was just them jump out boys, and then you just happen to wake up, go to the bathroom at 1 o'clock in the morning, and look out your window and see those lights flashing. Like, oh, somebody's house get raided.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. So that was it. My grandfather and them dope boys.
Yeah.
So that seems like an extreme, though.
Yeah.
Is it because you grew up like in the inner city?
Yeah, I would say
Detroit.
I would say. I mean, there was just not a lot of men. Like I didn't grow up with my father. I'm trying to think real quick. Not a lot of us had fathers.
Right.
Definitely
present fathers.
Present fathers.
Right.
Definitely none of us had fathers like in the house, like dad coming home pulling up. None of that.
Yeah.
None of that. So, we were each other's families. We all had family, but at the end of the day, all of us boys stuck together, and we supported each other, and I thank God every day for them.
Absolutely.
But we didn't have even really many adults, much less strong men, people leading us. No, you guys can't do that. We were in the streets since like 13. We were in the streets.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So it just was what it was.
Yeah.
You do what you need to do to make sure that you survive. Luckily, none of us got killed or anything like that. But when you saw the adults, it was violence and drugs. That's where it was.
Right.
And so you know, we were talking, you know, off air about people we didn't know. Like, I didn't know anybody in the military until I got to college.
Wow.
Like, I didn't even, like, you see the dude, you know, going, like a reservist,
Right.
you know, kind of hanging out. You going to the gym, you see a dude standing on the corner with his bag waiting for the bus. I'm like, yo, what are you doing? Like, oh, I got to do my weekends. Weekends what?
Right.
To do what? Like, you can go to war on the weekends?
Yeah.
You know, like they get you
Right.
back here. They get
Yeah.
you back from, where were we at in the late 90s? We were in Iraq.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
you
Desert
can-
Storm. So,
Yeah, you can get to
Yeah.
Iraq in the weekend.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
what are we doing here?
Yeah.
And so it was like, I just didn't know.
Yeah.
You know,
No,
like
absolutely.
9/11 really like turned me on to like, this is what the world is going through.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So, but
Right.
yeah, but that was it, man. My grandfather and them dope boys.
Nope, I got you. And so TJ,
Yeah.
you know, you grew up in a very different place. So, you know, Anton grows up in Detroit, Michigan, and you are a self-professed farm boy, country boy
That's right. For sure.
from the great state of Arkansas.
Yep.
Don't ever say Arkansas, people.
That's right.
Arkansas. So tell us a little bit about your upbringing.
Yeah, so I grew up in a small town called Stuttgart, Arkansas. Probably about 10,000 some odd people or so. And to be honest with you, I mean, for the most part, my experience is totally opposite of yours. I mean, we had very, very great, a lot of great male figures in my life. The first one was my non-biological dad, and rest in peace, Dad. And I know you can hear me because
Amen.
no one ever dies, right? So rest in peace to Charles Philman.
Big shout out to stepfathers, man. Non-biological fathers.
Yeah,
They are-
non-biological. That's the new word, people.
Yeah.
It's not
NBs, I
stepfather.
forgot.
It's NBs. It's
NBs.
non-biological fathers, because
Right.
the
Yeah.
reality is that step means like we have a little distance, in the reality that we and they wasn't. So my symbol, who was Charles Philman, he wasn't a step away. He was there.
Yeah.
And so for me, I mean, what he did to me is very similar to what your grandfather did. You know, woke up early in the morning, you know, mom cooking them breakfast. You know, he was pretty much gone all day working hard, you know, come back home, you know, pull his clothes off and, you know, take a shower, you know, eat dinner with the family, you know. So that was my biggest symbol. And he was, you know, regardless of what I had, any type of sport, whether it was basketball, whether it was tennis, whatever, a sport that I got into, track, he was always there for almost every single event.
Awesome.
I think the next biggest symbol for me was my Uncle Brent. Shout out to my Uncle Brent. He always was there for me, him and my Uncle Ray. Now, my Uncle Ray was a little bit more street, you know, but my Uncle Brent, he was there, you know, just trying to guide me through different stages. I'll never forget an experience where I was working at a local factory, making a lot of money. And my Uncle Brent pulled me to the side and said, listen, Neff, you're making a lot of money here, but this is a short-term plan. He said, get yourself somewhere out here where you can establish yourself, not to just make, you know, this little short-term money, but to grow and to be bigger, right?
How old were you?
I was probably about 17, 18, working at a mill, making more than I did in the first 4 or 5 years in the military.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. And so we was making a lot of money,
Okay.
but my Uncle Brent had a longer term vision, you know, for me. I think one of the other symbols I can say is one of my, he was a math teacher, but he was actually a tennis coach, and he went to church with us, Mr. Holloway. Shout out to Mr. Eric Holloway. He used to come by my the basketball court literally every day for probably about 3 years, and he would go, he'd suck his teeth like this. Thaddeus, I want to see you on the tennis court. And he would walk away. And I'm like, man, what is this dude doing? But anyway, 3 years after he kept on doing that, ultimately I gave in and I, you know, went out and played tennis with him. First year I sucked. But then Mr. Eric Holloway, he took me outside. I'll never forget one summer. He took me outside and we played every single day in the summer. And I came back that next year, the number one player on the team. And so my last symbol that I can just remember off the top as far as male leadership was my minister back in the day. And his name was Reverend Davis. Shout out to Reverend D. I know you're alive and well, and I thank you so much. I really do. He was like, I mean, to be honest with you, he was still to this day probably one of the most solid Christian male leaders that we had, you know, that I had in my life. He was the guy who, you know, faithful to his wife, you know, never cussing, you know,
Right.
showing us great examples of male leadership, the full package of male leadership. Because some,
he ain't have a son that was
didn't have no sons and didn't have no, because being honest with you, so I did have those, you know, not so good at male leadership, which, you know, no shots against my grandfather, but my grandfather had 13 kids, I believe, on one side and like 10 on the other side, right in a city of 10,000. So, you know, there was a lot of looking the other way type deal, you know.
Our grandparents were wild.
Yeah, for
They
sure.
ate organic, you know what I'm saying? They got nothing clogging the arteries in the flow, you know what I'm saying?
For sure. But
Well, wait a minute. When was condoms invented?
Put it in the chat if you know.
I'm just saying because birth control changed a lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
I'd probably say like the mid 20th.
So like maybe the 80s?
I would even
No.
I'd say like
it was way earlier
50s,
than that.
60s.
Yeah. It was earlier.
No
than that.
way.
Yeah. No, it was. I saw it.
I'm sure like
You know,
Yeah.
I'm looking it up. You guys keep
as
going.
we're talking,
Yeah, I saw a
I
show-
would guess between 1950 and 1970.
Yeah,
That's
I saw
my
a
guess.
show on that. So it was definitely in the 50s, bro, for sure. Yeah. But
Yeah, there was a lot of innovation going on during that time.
for sure.
You know, so I'm just listening to both of you, and I really appreciate where you both are coming from, because here's the thing. Here's one thing that I don't like. Like I'm definitely an old school hip hop aficionado. Period. I know a lot about it. Grew up on it.
Yeah.
And so much that, you know, African American males in particular get dogged about is like, well, all they talk about is their upbringing, but their upbringing is so bad.
Right.
It's about the hood. It's about drugs. It's about your boy dying. It's about this. It's about that. And it's just not true.
Right.
You know, and I think there's a negative stigma for people who have grown up with some decent male figures in their life. Now, I'm probably in between you and Anton, you know, being from Baltimore,
Right.
the city of Baltimore, not the inner city of Baltimore. Did you look it up?
Well, I can't get good Wi-Fi in here, so you might have to do your computer.
Got it. All right. So,
Yeah.
you know, being from the city of Baltimore, you know, a lot of people used to say, you know, oh man, you sound like you were from the suburbs. You grew up with a white picket fence. I'm like, it's because I speak proper English.
Right.
Like, what's the stigma there? Like, what's going on?
Dude.
Because
I have a
because, right,
stigma story about English.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like people
Yeah.
of color, we're not supposed to talk properly? Like,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
And so, you know what did KRS once say? Talk English, broken English and drug selling, right? That's what, you know, he was saying back in the day. And it's like, but that's not how I grew up. I went to a Catholic school.
Yeah.
I went to Catholic elementary school, Catholic middle school, and then a private high school for the most part. And my mom and dad were divorced when I was like young, like 2 years old.
Okay.
And so I was raised by my mother and my grandmother.
Yeah.
You know, and while we're giving shout out to my mom, you know, the anniversary of her passing was 5 years ago yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that
Rest
was
in
a hard
Rest
day.
in paradise.
Yeah.
Yes,
Rest in
amen.
paradise
And,
for sure.
You know, I love my mom, man. I mean, she passed away in my basement in hospice. You know, I wanted to make sure that she was there with the family and with the girls.
Yeah.
you
I
know.
remember seeing her a couple times.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so, but growing up, I didn't see my dad often. I would see my dad, I'm telling you, probably once every 3 to 4 years, maybe. He would come by, you know, kind of hang out for a little bit. Now, when I was younger, I would go spend some time with him on the weekends, you know, kind of that shared custody type deal.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so that was cool. And I was closer to my grandparents on his side. But I have a sister, I have a half sister.
Oh.
And one of the things that I really regret growing up was that I never really grew very close to her. You know, my sister Desiree. And
It's never too late, bro.
It's
She's
never
still
too late.
young.
No,
It's never too late to repent.
I did that with my halves.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
when that was like when I started having kids,
Mhm.
my Papa Papa was a Rolling Stone.
Still
is.
Yeah.
Still is a Rolling Stone.
He's my guy though.
Yeah.
60 still having kids.
Yeah,
That's a G right
he's
Look, wherever he laid his hat was his home.
yeah. I mean, you know, this dude. So I remember, like, I had at the time, I had a 17-year-old sister.
Mm-hmm.
I had a 14-year-old brother, and I had a 13-year-old sister. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to reach out to them because, you know, me being here and them being up there, I was like, you know, like my kids are only going to know my wife's side of the family. I can't do that.
Yeah.
You know, so I just started. And now me and two of them, one of my younger sisters and one of my younger brothers, we're super close.
Yeah.
And it took a lot.
It takes some effort. It really does. And I mean,
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I've only seen my sister like at, you know, unfortunate family events, and it's not good because you kind of diverge, and you know, in your life. And kind of looking back, when my father was a veteran, he died in the Veterans Hospital in Baltimore.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I never had an opportunity to really develop emotion toward him growing up,
Wow.
good or bad.
Same here.
Just very, very neutral.
Yeah.
But when I became a Christian in 1997, when I was at American University.
Good year.
Good year, man. I decided, I was walking down Massachusetts Avenue. I remember this. I was praying, and I was like, God, I don't know if my father's going to ever reach out to me, but that's not my responsibility. I'm a grown man.
Yeah.
You know, and I was in my early 20s. I was like, I'm going to reach out to him.
Right.
Because I needed to connect.
Right.
And that's what I did. I remember calling him, having that initial conversation, and just, you know, and we would talk a little bit more often. Yeah. And there was no judgment because there was something that I needed to do in my heart. Right. But it, you know, kind of getting back on the Christian male leadership or just male leadership period. Unfortunately, I didn't have any symbols of that outside of coaches. You know, I played football for years, you know, in middle school, going into high school. Terrible at basketball. I'm a contact sport guy, but like those like coaches and other people like that, teachers were my role models. Yeah, the guys from the hood were my friends. They weren't role models. Right. My mother's boyfriends here and there were definitely not role models. No, because I'm like, you don't have your own house. Right. You come and you sleeping here and you eating here. Like being 12, 13, 14, I had enough sense to know that's not a role model for me because that's not what I wanted, you know, growing up. And as much as I rep Baltimore and I love Baltimore, I knew at an early age I'm getting out because I need to see what was going on.
Yeah, same here.
And I tell people all the time, I am that guy. If a recruiter would have come to me, I would have gone in the military.
Absolutely.
I'm not because I would have been like, oh, I can go see the world and I can do this and I can do that. Not because I didn't have any opportunity. You know, I didn't want to go to college, but I'm pretty sure that I was open to that back then. But it just wasn't around.
Well, the recruiter didn't have to find me. I went and found the recruiter.
You went and found the recruiter?
I was in that small of a town. I'm like, look, bro, I'm getting out of here.
Right. And here's the thing, like, and shout out to all the fathers out there who are there every single night. Yeah. Right. With their wives, with their children, or if you're a single father raising children or whatever it is, because it's difficult, you know, to do that. And I think society, like, I get mad, like when I see commercials and I see the commercial with the mom in the kitchen cleaning up with Bounty, you know, or putting stuff in the laundry, or, you know, or just doing different things. I'm like, where's the man? Yeah. Like, where's the man in the house? Where's
He's
the
working,
man
bro?
With the towel, you know? Dude, this is like 6 o'clock at night. The man needs to be home unless he's working.
He's in his home office. Okay.
That's me.
Making phone calls, making things happen, making sure that bank transfer went through.
Yeah.
You know, he upstairs. He ain't got time to clean up the green spill on the countertop.
Yeah, but I know what he's talking about.
But he's not there.
I know what you mean.
But he's not in the scene. Yeah. He's not in the shot.
Well, okay.
He needs to be somewhere around.
Let's talk about this.
Right.
All right. So do you think that who said this? Was it TD Jakes that said that, like, if you see your man, like, I think he was talking to a woman, and he was saying that, like, if your man is around all the time, something's wrong. Meaning that if he's not out there getting after it, and he's like, oh, I'm here with you, baby, all the time, hand in hand, you know, holding hands, you know, 4 o'clock, I'm here, then he's not fulfilling his potential. And to a degree, and it might just be my personality. I was having this conversation with Chris, who should be here. Big shout out to Chris.
Yeah, Chris B. Shout out, brother.
Yeah, come next time.
Yeah, and that's in YouTube.
That's right.
Get off the table.
Yeah, you know, I don't. Like that's not my personality has never been to hang out at home.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Never been. I because I enjoy it too much. And usually when you enjoy something too much, you abuse it.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? So it would be easy for me to just abuse being at home chilling.
Right.
You know, I'm introverted. That would be perfect. But when you identify that, like, man, you're missing, you know, it's not all about money, but you're missing opportunities. You're missing relationship building.
Absolutely.
You're missing a lot of stuff by not engaging with the world.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes because like right now, everybody wants men to be softer.
Oh yeah, for sure. Unfortunately.
They want us to be softer. And where are we softest? At home. We should be soft.
Right. Now, look. So we in our private conversations, your boy always says, well, everyone looks at TJ as a caveman. Let me tell you something. There's value in that.
Yeah.
Because you got the family here.
Mm-hmm.
The man goes out and risks his life
Yeah.
to provide for that family so that they could live another day.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's respect to TJ because like that mindset, that mentality is you're not going out for yourself.
Yeah.
You're going out so that you have little ones at home, you have a wife at home. You need to maintain that roof over their head.
Yeah.
You need to maintain that food in the cupboard.
Yeah.
Right. And you need to protect them. And that's part of God's design on how and on what our roles are.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the issue that we've had conversations about, extensive conversations about, is that there's a misalignment of not a misalignment of the roles. God has aligned the roles properly.
Yeah.
You know, we've decided to step out of that alignment. And then when you step out of the alignment, then you end up having issues. Then you end up having static and problems. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that, I mean, because we kind of transitioning now a little bit, I guess, in the podcast with you know, even you starting out with the commercial thing, and then, you know, even you talking about, you know, that man missing in the commercial. So I just want to kind of address that.
Let's go back to that. Go ahead.
Yeah, come up with that, because if you look at our society, right, even the depictions of men are all soft. Like, I mean, they're
definitely.
And I'm
I
like,
agree.
yo, man, I seen a commercial the other day. I think it was about a life insurance thing. And just for all you guys out there, you think that we're wrong around this table? Start paying attention to the commercials out here, and you'll see what I'm saying. It's always like a man in there, you know, being either talked to as he's weak or being seen as weak in some way, some shape, form or fashion. There's a life insurance commercial.
Or stupid.
Yeah, or stupid.
Or stupid.
It's a life insurance
Can't
commercial
stand it.
that's out there. And she asked his name, Tori or whatever, hey, Tori, did you get a life insurance company? And then she says, Tori, you should have, like, yo, girl, that's that man's kingdom. You don't talk to the king like that. And I tell people all day, and I've had a local conversation, hey, listen, every man, you know, every man's
Right up Cardinal
household.
Drive.
Yeah. Listen, every man's household is his kingdom, period. And women, no knock, but listen, you got to understand that that's the role of a man. It's his kingdom, you know, and so you don't go into a kingdom like it's a democracy, you know, but yes, you have a king who's running a household because, and that should be something that women are willing to yield to, because this king, earthly king, is following that heavenly king.
That's right.
You do that, hey, you got nothing to worry about, you know? So, yeah.
I think that I think the issue is, and, you know, tell me if I'm wrong, I think that there would be more women, and I don't want to speak for them because, you know, I don't want to mansplain. I think that the issue is there's not enough men who do it the right way.
Right.
And so it gets taken the wrong way. Like, oh, you just want to control me.
Right.
And this and that. So I think that if men show more of an example of explaining and coming from and showing examples of coming from a spiritual place, then I think women would understand more.
I think so too. But if you look back, and even in the Bible, that's actually one of the curse for women. Look in Genesis 3:16, because we always talk about, you know, John 3:16. But ladies, take a look back in Genesis 3:16. It basically says one of their punishments would be when we were, you know, title wise, okay? we're not equal title-wise. If you look in the Bible, positional, we're not equal. And he says that he, at that point in Genesis 3:16, look around there, he says, I'm going to put the man above you. And basically in so many ways that you're going to hate this, And so it almost, doesn't matter, it does matter, to a degree how we execute this. But the reality is Satan is always going to be tempting the woman, right, not to want to submit to that kingly and / godly authority. Just like we as men don't always want to submit to the king's authority as well. So we do. We have to be gentle. We have to be respectful.
That's right. We
have to be full of grace, but we have to be kings, man.
Well, there's a quote, and I agree with you. And I think, thank you for bringing me closer. There's a quote from Denzel Washington, and he says, like gentleness, strength, forbearance, hard work. He said those are some of the gifts that God has given to men.
Right.
And we need to use them appropriately.
Absolutely.
And I think and when you look at the Bible, you had good kings and you had evil kings.
Yep.
Right. And evil kings got deposed and good kings lived long lives.
Yep.
And a lot of the evil kings, their kids rose up to try to kill them and replace them. And I think that as men, I think I agree with both of you. And what you said, Anton, is that if you're given a gift or if you're given a strength or a position of authority, if you abuse it, and you don't use it the way that it's intended to be used, right, then people are going to naturally rebel against that. And then women are going to see that as chauvinism.
Yep.
Or Latinas see that as machismo, right? Because men, a lot of Latin men look at women as possessions, treat them like possessions. They're not, the Bible says nowhere are they possessions. Furthermore, they're not, just like black people were seen as 3/5 of a human being.
Yeah.
When brought to this country as possessions. Women are not possessions. And I think we have to look at that. And the Bible says that, okay, I'm going to create this woman and make her suitable.
Right.
That's what it says, suitable, which means like custom fit for us.
Yeah.
Now, I was just listening to this sermon, shout out, to Dr. Derek Greer on this one. But he was like, either as men, we got to expand or contract. Or the woman has to when you're married, but not every man out there is married.
Right.
And not every woman out there is married. And we have to look at the leadership overall, because I think that men, whether you're married and you have a home or whether you're single or not, we still have to have a certain role.
Absolutely.
And I think we still need to come across a certain way. We need to carry ourselves a certain way. We need to speak a certain way.
Yeah. I think what happens
we need to follow through
when
way.
you raised by the streets,
right,
and you don't have any role models and things like that, and the pastor got 2 kids on the side in the Cadillac with Dayton's,
right.
or he, the building fund we ain't building nothing with the building fund except the pastor's next Lincoln.
Bro, I've been there, bro.
I've
been there.
You ain't lying about
Yeah.
that.
I just think we need better examples, and I think that's what we're doing. I think that's what we're doing as fathers. I can speak for you guys.
Yeah,
I can speak for myself, and that's why, we talked about how we grew up. And it wasn't until I don't want to say hold a grudge, but I just didn't understand why my parents were pretty bad at raising me, because they just weren't around.
Right.
Just like the things that they had going on were just more of a priority.
Right.
That's really what it comes down to. And so it wasn't until I became a father, became married, and dedicated myself as best I could to doing a good job.
Right.
I said, you guys had no shot.
Yeah.
No shot. And so I sort of let that go, that sort of pseudo anger and not misunderstanding. I'm like, and I became a parent at 30. My mom became a parent at 18.
Wow. Yeah, it's tough.
Tough.
Makes you become more empathetic when you become parents.
It's like,
for sure.
Right.
Oh, well, never mind. Why am I mad at you? You had no opportunity, because if I would have had a kid at 18, still.
Right.
No way.
Yeah.
No way. And so it's like but an 18-year-old father can't explain anything to a child.
For sure.
They just can't.
No.
So I think that we have to get to a point where we can explain to young people that just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. Like, yes, you can have sex, you can do whatever you want, right? But the benefit is there's no benefit into it.
Yeah.
No, I mean, and that's in the New Testament. Everything's permissible, but not everything is beneficial, and so, and it's true. God knows what he's talking about. Like, we can go out and do whatever we want, but whether it's good for us or not,
Right.
whether it's going to have a good result or not, so do I need to read something here?
No. I just wanted to just make sure your flow was.
Oh no, absolutely. Let me
Yeah.
put my glasses on here.
Suspect some, bro.
Yeah, let me
It's
see.
your flow. I just wanted to,
No, absolutely. So here's another thing. So we just talked about this, but let me go to number 5 and number 6 on here. You know what? I want us to talk about this: the effect of proper male leadership on boys first, and then the effect of proper male leadership on girls.
Okay.
So thank you, TJ. So let's talk about that. Now, the only one at this table that has a boy is you.
Yeah.
We have girls.
It is completely, I have to be a totally different person.
Really?
A totally different person. I'll give you a prime example.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys know we were in New York this past weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So we were in Juniors in Brooklyn. And
Okay.
so
Yep.
they sit us down. It's probably close to 8 o'clock at night. And so they get ready to seat us. And so it's like one of those, like one side it's the cushion and the other side it's the chair, like the inside's the cushion.
Right.
And so he says, oh, I want to sit on the inside.
Yeah.
And I kind of look at him and I'm like what? He's like, please, Dad, let me sit on the inside.
Yeah.
And I said, okay. I said, but if you're gonna sit on the inside, you have to have the responsibility of sitting on the inside. That means my back is to the public.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be my eyes. You have to pay it. You can't just be like, oh, where's my phone?
Right.
Let me bury my head. I need
Right.
you to tell me if something's going on around me. So
Right.
every few seconds, I need you to pick your head up and scan. I wouldn't tell my dog. I would tell her to always, know your surroundings and things like that.
Right.
But as a man, you need to be proactive about a situation.
Right.
It's
That's
just
right.
a burden that we have.
Situational awareness.
You have to have
Yes, it is.
situational awareness. I
Yes.
want both of them to have
Right.
situational awareness. But for him, I expect you to be able to actually react. I need you to know where the exits are.
Absolutely.
Because fighting is not always the answer. Sometimes you need to escape.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so if you don't know where the doors are, not just the front door, but the back door, maybe you see where the kitchen is.
Yeah.
There's always a door there. I need you to know where to go so that you're not just sitting there frozen.
Mhm.
We were walking through the city at night. I said, hey, I learned this from my FTO, where he would just,
What's the FTO?
FTO is a field training officer.
Okay.
Just for reference, I used to be a cop.
Just for the office. Mm-hmm.
Where we would be driving, and this area is new to me.
Mhm.
Like Alexandria was new to me at the time,
Right.
and he would just out of nowhere stop the car and say, "Where are we?"
Mm-hmm.
And if I didn't know, I was in trouble. And this is like
Yeah.
pre GPS, look at your phone. Like
Right.
we had like laminated maps.
Hmm.
Right. So I always, every time I turned or got on a new block, I had to know exactly where we are because trouble can happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you can't get on the radio and say, where are you?
Mm-hmm.
So you're gonna say trouble. And
Yeah.
they're gonna say, okay, where are you? And if you can't say where you are, then
That's a problem.
It's a problem because
Yes,
you
it
can't
is.
get any help. And so when we're walking, I stop and tell my son, I'm like, where are we?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, in the city. And I'm like,
Correct.
no, yes,
Right.
yes.
On one level.
Yes, we're in the city,
Yeah.
but you have to know. And so having a boy is a little bit different because you're raising what you want to see.
Right.
You're doing that with both.
Right.
You're doing that with both from a male, but from a male standpoint to a daughter,
Mhm.
and you guys can speak to this.
Mhm.
I'm being more of an example of sort of kindness
Right.
and things like that, terms of like relationship wise. Like
Right.
I'm not this brick wall that you can't get close to,
Mhm.
like this stone slab who never shows any emotion
Hmm.
and things like that. I'm really soft on her. You've seen her. She comes and like sits on me and I'm like, oh, you're heavy. You know what I mean? Cause she's big.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? She's a big, tall, strong girl. And I'm like, but still, I want you to look at the opposite sex not as something that's unapproachable, can't talk to, can't communicate with, can't do any of these
Mhm.
things. You need to learn how to have proper conversations because you need to be able to not just think that you're in control all the time.
Right.
You're in a position of being soft, being feminine. That's what I want. I don't want you to take on sort of my masculine roles in the
Right.
house.
Yeah.
Right.
That's not, I was talking to somebody and there are a lot of women. Well, I was in a B&I meeting
Okay.
and we got on this topic And the two people in my little subgroup were two single women.
Mhm.
And they were talking about guys they dated. And they both, this lady was like, yeah, the guy I'm dating right now, he wants me to be like, take charge and do this and do that. And then the other woman said, I'm just dating this guy. And he doesn't like any of that. Like, he gets, like, if he doesn't open the door for me and I make a mistake and open the door for myself, he's pissed at me.
Yeah.
And so I got to the point where I had to, like, sort of reset myself to now I expect that, and he always delivers. I had to, like, erase a lot of the things that I thought I wanted,
Right.
and be soft, and he loves it, and he takes care of me.
Yeah.
And so that's what I try to instill a little bit into my daughter. Like, you don't have to be this super soldier.
Right.
That some situations, like, I don't know, like if you don't have any parents and you're left raising all the kids or something like that,
Right.
sort of like my wife, she was like that.
Right.
We have that conflict at the beginning of our marriage,
Right.
because she was sort of like the matriarch in the house because she had an immigrant mom who couldn't speak English.
Right.
So she had to do all the driving, all the speaking, all the calling, all of that. But then when she came to, we created our family, she tried to bring those same elements into our house. And I was like, no, it's not. That's not why I married you.
It's not necessary.
It's not
now.
necessary.
Right.
Yeah.
It's great that you can do it.
In
Great
Spanish,
skill
is
set.
no es necesario.
Yeah. Muchas gracias, señor.
De nada.
This
Yeah,
is the sensei.
Yeah, that's right. Espanol sensei. Or sensei de Espanol?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always backwards.
Well, it's not sensei.
It's not
Sensei
sensei.
is Japanese.
But yeah, but they might not have a word.
No,
What's teacher?
You want to know the word teacher?
Yeah.
in Spanish?
Put it in chat. All right, go ahead. We could do some of this in
Is
Spanish.
all
if
of
we
your
want to.
all of your listeners inherently like bilingual?
No, but I want them to be.
Yeah,
that's true.
for sure.
Yeah.
But you just like that's I think that's another issue we deal with.
Mhm.
Is that because women are expected to work just as much as men are. And so you have to be, you're not going to get a great job if you're like this super duper soft kind of pushover kind of, like if you want to be in charge of people, you have to have some masculine traits about you. And the women in that conversation I was referring to, these are women who have their own businesses.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so they can't be, so it's hard for women to round it up. It's hard for women to sort of be one way out there and then come home and be a totally different way. It's hard for them. We don't have to do that. We stand up for ourselves at work, and we are who we are, and then we come home and we're sort of the same thing. We're we're probably more expected to do things at home. At work, you can just be like a line worker working in a mill or something like that, and then you come home and you have to be in charge.
Yeah.
Women, you would sort of have to be like this totally different facade of a person at work, and then come home and then be like, ugh.
Well, I mean, truth be told, though, I still think women, for the most part, if we're honest, they still run the household, right? I see that in my house. My wife definitely has zero to no masculinity, but she still essentially runs the house, and that's okay for me. And, as long as she understands and respects, that my role as the king, and I say that literally. So I'm gonna transition into talking about, the male, I guess, leadership effect on young women. I think it's very, very, very important, male leadership in a home, and especially for young women, because, as Brendan mentioned a minute ago, him and I, we both have young girls. And women, young girls, they need to first and foremost see us as the example of Christ, right? I don't orient my leadership in my house based off, prepping them for, their husband. I orient my leadership in my house preparing them to see and be with their real father. And I tell them this all the time: your real father is in heaven. I am just actually an example, and some days a good example, some days a very poor example. But God put me here, to show you what a father is like, so that when you in the spiritual realm are trying to, ask for or engage with your heavenly Father. I want to be that example. I was actually talking to Brandon and Jennifer yesterday, and I think we was talking about something. They was talking about going playing basketball or something, and I mentioned to Jennifer that, hey, as a father, I try to orient my heart to God all the time. First, okay, what would God want? God wants to give us everything. Right. He wants to give us everything, but he obviously wants to set boundaries. Right. So my first role, as a father, to impress upon my children so that they can see that the Father provides, right? The Father loves, the Father has grace, right? The Father is willing to give you anything that you ask for, long as it's within certain, parameters.
Absolutely.
And so I try to show them that. And then, yes, as they get older, especially my oldest one right now, Mia, which she's my non-biological child, but, I treat her like my actual, daughter, in which she is. My role right now, in which I, taking some adjustments, has to be, not only showing her the male leadership role to show her who her real father is, but now also to help her to see what type of man you want to choose. Because as you were saying the other day, I think in marriage that women are, especially if you fallen into a godly relationship, you're putting yourself in a more vulnerable situation. Because now you're saying, hey, I don't have 100% control of my life now, because if you're getting married, you're submitting to a king. And even when we're helping them to see who their real father is, and even when we're helping to see what type of man that they want to follow, we're still showing them godly principles, right? Because they're not forced to go out and get a man, but you need to find someone just like God, right? Who you're willing to give something up, right? Because of all the good stuff that you're getting. Right. And so the principles that we have to show our girls, and teach them is to have to marry a man with integrity.
Yes.
Marry a man that's full of grace, marry a man that's humble. So those are my thoughts, on, how we have to,
and I think in growing up in the city, and I'm sure you've seen this, you've experienced this, like, back in the day. This is like, woo, I don't know. I was really young, but back in the 80s and the early 90s, they used to call Baltimore the city that reads. Well, the bad side of that, they used to call Baltimore the city that breeds, because we had so much teen pregnancy.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it was rampant, and anybody from Baltimore who's been there for a long time knows about. And it's unfortunate, but when you kind of look back at that, what's the origin of that? Like, what's the genesis of that teen pregnancy? Is that, what are those young girls looking for? Right. That young boy, is not going to provide, right? But they're looking for acceptance.
Yeah.
They're looking for love, right? They're looking for security.
Right.
They're looking to be held. They're looking to be paid attention to.
Right.
They're looking to be valued.
For sure.
Right. But they're looking for it in the wrong way.
Yep.
And so with men, like you were just saying, TJ, it's like, as fathers, especially of you, because you have, your daughter, and with my girls, I want them to know that I love them so much. I love them unconditionally. You're my girls.
Yeah.
But to have that respect in the household for the role that I play as their father.
Absolutely.
And to understand that Jennifer plays as their mother, and the role that we play together as a family.
Yeah.
And again, they're young, so I mean, it's an evolution. It takes time.
Absolutely.
For me, I think, for that to really kind of come into view. And, again, I grew up in a home where that wasn't the case. Wasn't a male there, but I knew at some point in my life, I wanted that to come to be. I wanted that to come to fruition. And so now, it's here. It's been here for a long time. And like you said, just doing my best all the time. Yeah. My character and personality is less confrontational. Like, I don't like confrontation.
Right.
Even though I work in mortgages and real estate, there's a lot of confrontation all the time.
Yeah.
But it's a different type of confrontation. And
Right.
but my wife is the complete opposite. Because confrontation for her is communication. It's that connection. So I think that's why God put us together.
Yeah.
Sure. But there has to be a certain amount of confrontation.
Yeah. For sure.
With girls, Because if you don't, what happens is they get overly emotional. You know, they're going to end up looking for their examples elsewhere.
Yeah.
I think, and one thing that we haven't talked about is especially with social media, they're going to end up getting their self-esteem, right?
Sure.
And you know, their self-worth, it's going to be determined by what they see on their phone.
Yeah.
And so we have to, you know, we are on them. We restrict a lot of apps. We're on them about their time and this and that and the other. And one thing I don't want my girls doing is getting their self-esteem and their self-worth from what they see on this phone versus getting it from God. Versus getting it from godly women that we put around them, you know, just like a community, just like a village, so that they can have some help and some support and influence.
Well, this was what I was going to put to you guys. So here's the problem that we have with this plan. I think there's a couple
Which
problems.
plan are you talking about?
About like leadership and all that type of stuff. You know, finding more suitable partners. You know, like you guys want suitable young men for your daughters.
Right.
You know,
Absolutely.
I need suitable young women and young men for my kids.
Right.
The issue that we run into now, especially with the teens, is that you can see that like when kids are younger, the most influential thing that they have in their lives is us.
Right.
Once they become teens,
Shift. Major.
it's a shift.
Major.
Right? So there's a shift where the world becomes more of an influence.
Yeah.
You know, the kids they see at school.
Yeah.
You know, I hate to say it, but a lot of these teachers, you know, nothing against teachers, but sometimes, okay, the things that the teachers are learning at school. I won't necessarily say the teachers, but they can't really separate. They get taught a certain way.
Right.
And then they bring that sort of method of teaching to schools sometimes.
Right.
You know, like I wish all of my teachers for my kids were 45 years old, but they're 21. They're 22. They're
Really?
20. Yes.
Wow.
I feel like some of them are young enough to be my kids.
Wow.
They're really young. And it's like, you know, whatever. You want that youthful energy because these kids are kind of bad.
Yeah.
And so they need a lot of energy to be able to keep up.
To deal with that mess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's this is where I'm going to go with this because there's a lot we could talk about, especially for you guys. Because I look around and you talked about community and bringing it. I don't see a lot of young men. I'm just going to keep it 100.
Yeah.
I don't see a lot of young men that are suitable enough for my daughter.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not going to go into whose fault that is because if it's somebody's fault, it's all of our fault.
Absolutely.
If we're supposed to be doing it together.
Yeah.
And I see that because like our mentoring thing, which they might not know what we're talking about, but we've all agreed to mentor young men and things like that. That's sort of a start.
Right.
Right.
But it's like I don't see a lot of young men who are even suitable enough to, and I don't mean like I definitely don't mean sort of exterior things like the way they dress, even though that helps. That does help. Like a lot of times I pick up my daughter goes to school out of district, so I have to pick her up and I have to drop her off. And I make it a point to just sit and just wait and look at the young men who are walking. And I don't care. You know, maybe this is something, I don't know if it's a positive or negative yet, right? But when I went to high school, man, if you weren't as perfect as you could be within a sort of set parameter, nobody had a ton of money.
Right.
But with those 2 pairs of pants that you had, if them bad boys wasn't creased up and you the night before, if you didn't take your old toothbrush and hit your shoes, and you know, like, you know, them 3 shirts you had to rotate with your homeboy secretly.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Oh, wait. Don't try to act like I was the only person who, like, our friends, we wrote, like, if I got something new, it was like, yo, when you rock that 2 weeks, let me hold that.
Right,
You know what I'm
right,
saying? Like that's how we had to get down.
Yeah.
Like if you didn't keep what you had looking clean, these kids don't even wear pants.
Yeah.
I mean, I see like the guys just walking Crocs, pajamas, pajama bottoms. You didn't brush your hair. You know, like when did like unkept hair? Like it was like we wanted dreads to be inclusive,
Right.
and longer, you know, natural hair to be inclusive. But nobody said you couldn't like style it.
Right.
Keep a nice shape up. Keep you know, these young men, they don't look the part. They don't want to be the part. Because now we've made it seem like that's the system talking. We got to get away from that. Right? And we've thrown God into that. That's a rule. Those are rules. So that's what we've taken everything that we should be to mold young men into like something that like young women would be like, you know what? He's pretty squared away. I can trust him. Everything that you could probably, they ain't got it. I don't know. They don't have the it.
Yeah, but I mean, I think personally, like for me, I know I definitely been on this journey, man, for probably about 2 years consciously. Probably been on this
About
journey.
mentoring?
Real quick, where are we at on time, Anton?
We are at an hour 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we
Yep.
Let's do a few more minutes.
Yeah, we're getting that.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think, you know, what I've been doing consciously is literally like lately is starting with myself, right? We literally can talk about, you know, what society looks like, you know, what all of this other stuff. But, you know, one of the things that we used to say in the military, right, is if you see a problem, you complain about the problem, but you have no solutions to the problem, then you are a part of the problem. So one of the things I just say is, you know, if we see something that we think that needs to be changed, we just gotta, you know, take our time and get involved, you know, at whatever level that we can. And you know, you can go out there, whether it's somebody you go to church with, you know, somebody, your neighbors, you know, somebody that's a part of their soccer games or whatever. We have to build those type of relationships with those young men so that they can actually hear us, you know, and that's the way that those men are going to get better. Because I know the truth be told, for me, that's the way it happened for me. It was men who took out their time, you know, and educated me in one shape or form or fashion. And so that's what I want to leave the audience with. You know, we're talking about male leadership, you know, in our society, in our families, you know, in every different scenario in churches. That's what I want to leave with this podcast is just, men, you know, truth be told, we have to start with ourselves. And we have to make sure that we're first and foremost aligned with the king, if we're going to call ourselves king, right? And we have to take that guidance that we've gotten from the king, you know, and spread that message to the other younger kings around us. So that's what I want to leave on the podcast. Make sure that we're first and foremost aligned with the king above, you know, learn what we can from that king. Make sure we share it with our other kings around us, and then that we help try to shape these younger kings into truly being kings. So that's what I'm going to leave.
No, and I appreciate that, and I think you hit it right on the head with regards to starting with yourself. And I think that now definitely shout out to all of the mentorship programs that do exist,
right?
Because there's thousands of them around the country. There are tens of thousands of men who have dedicated themselves to young boys and young girls in terms of mentoring and teaching and guiding, right? And we need more.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day. So I don't want to, for myself, I don't want to ever come across as if it's non-existent. It's definitely existent, but, you know, we definitely need more. And I think this is not a religious program, but I mean, I am of the firm belief that we need God
absolutely
in our lives. And the thing is, because what's your standard going to be in your life?
Yeah.
Your standard's going to be whatever you make it to be, or whatever society tells you your standard's going to be.
Yeah.
And that's where we've gone way off track.
Yeah.
If we want to be perfectly honest about it.
Yeah.
No, so we need a standard in our life. We need a foundation upon which we stand. And then when we have that, then we can get aligned with it.
Right.
And then when we're aligned with it, then the ripple effect takes place, right, over a period of time where men stay in households.
Well, I think that's where the battle is. And that's what I was trying to say. The battle has been, no, just do whatever you want.
Right.
God. Like, nah, that's just old school thinking.
Right.
To keep, to keep women subservient, to keep men, like they talk about slaves in the Bible. What you talking about? You don't need that thing. They'll create all types of propaganda to get God out of the house. Oh, you don't need that. No, women didn't work when the Bible was written. So you shouldn't, you need to work now. Take care of yourself like a man. No, work. No, you don't need to work. The government will take care of you. You know what I mean? Like, you don't need to do that. No, just become a gamer.
Yeah.
Just sit at home. You can relax. The government will take care of you. We will provide everything that you need, but don't go out and start thinking for yourself. Don't go out and start thinking that you need something that's greater than yourself to worry about and to lean on and to respect. Like, I think that's sort of where the fight is.
Yeah.
That's where, it's always been there. And I think that we just have to get back to it somehow. I don't know.
Well, David Goggins has a quote. He just talks about how, men or young boys these days are they don't respond to challenge as well. Like as you just said, like this, the softness, it's like, you're afraid of being pushed, afraid of being challenged. And that's a problem.
Yeah,
because it goes against our very nature, how God actually physically designed us, right? It goes against all of that. And I think, I think of the analogy of like the piece of paper that you photocopy over and over and over again. It's going to get lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter, right? And more and more distilled. And we got to get back to like that original. And I think the practical that we come out of this is, young men, teenagers have to make that decision on what they want to be in their life, where they want to go in their life, and on top of that, who they want to serve in their life. Because do you want to serve yourself?
Yeah.
Or do you want to serve a higher power? If you want to serve yourself, it's going to continue as it is. And in fact, it's going to get worse.
Yeah.
If you want to serve a higher power, then over time, when you have a multiplier effect, it's going to get better, just by itself. So hopefully you all enjoyed this conversation with Vision2Mission. Just shout out. Thank you so much, Anton. Thank you so much, TJ, for just being real. Definitely reach out to us. Send us a DM. Please subscribe. See, I'm pointing below. Hopefully Anton can put like the link below or something like that. I'm so technically challenged. This is fantastic.
It'll be in the description.
Yeah, it'll be in the show notes and in the description. Love you all. Peace and take care.
Good job, guys.
And out.